I wanted to talk about the concept of secondary dominance, and so to start out I just wanted to show you the circle of fifths. You've probably seen this quite a few times by the time you make it to harmony 2. So as you remember, C major has no sharps or flats, right? And if we go in this direction, G major has 1 sharp, D major has 2, etc. Moving around the sharp side. And then going in this direction, F major has 1 flat, B flat has 2 flats, etc. So this is the circle of fifths. All right. Now in the key of C, we get to the dominant by going 1 to the right here. So G7 is the dominant of C major, right? And in the key of G major, D7 would be the dominant, and that would lead to G. So that would be 5-7 to 1, right, in the key of G major. And A7 would be the 5-7 of D, right? So 5-7 to 1, D major chord here. All right, and likewise, so B flat in the key of B flat, F7 would be the dominant. So if you go 1 to the right, or 1 sort of clockwise, you're going to get the dominant in the key that you're in, right? Okay, so let's talk about secondary dominance a little bit, and in order to do that, I'm going to switch over to this other file here. So I've done the same thing with the circle of fifths, but now I don't have any key signatures or anything. Now if we think about the key of C major, we are going to have these notes. Circle them. So it's going to take me a second here because my mouse, okay, here we go. All right, so those are all the notes of C major. Those are the notes from the circle of fifths that happen to occur in C major, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So those would be the notes of C major. And, in the key of C major, each one of these has a particular chord type that is associated with it, right? F is going to be major, that's 4 major 7, so F major 7, C major 7, G is going to be, of course, dominant 7, D is going to be D minor 7, A is A minor 7, E is E minor 7, and B is, of course, minor 7 flat 5. Of course, these could all be triads, but I am just making them into 7th chords for the, more practice, okay? So the concept of secondary dominance, instead of having just diatonic chords, right, we're going to take the dominant, what we just saw in the back here, we said G7 goes to C, right? D7 goes to G, A7 goes to D. But what if we take a 7th chord and use it to get to a diatonic chord in a major key? All right. So, for example, if we want to go to A minor 7 in the key of C, we could use an E7 to get there, an E dominant 7, right? So an E dominant 7 to get to C, to A, and that would be what's called a secondary dominant. Now, so let's try this again. Let's say we have an E7 here, right? E7 could go to A minor 7 as the dominant, right? And so that would be what we call a secondary dominant. So we still have A minor 7 here, and A minor 7, of course, would be 6 minor 7, right? So what is E7? E7 is going to be what we call 5-7 of 6. All right, so not diatonic to C anymore, right? E dominant 7, that's not diatonic to C anymore. It's going to have an accidental in it. It's going to have a G sharp, and that helps us lead to A. All right, so we could have an E7 to get us to A, and that's going to sound like this. For example, instead of just C to E minor 7 to A minor 7, it gives it this special sound that leads us to really strongly to A minor. All right, and so what's another possible secondary dominant? Well, let's say we wanted to get to F major, right? F major 7 is going to be our 4, major 7. So what if we went one to the right, again, one to the right, and we put a dominant in that spot. So we put, instead of C major 7, C7. Well, that would be the dominant of 4, right? So we are going to call this 5, 7 of 4. So we could use this this C7, not C major 7, to get to our 4 chord. So for example, C major 7. Now I'll turn it into a C dominant 7. And I go over to F as F major 7. Okay? And so in each case, we call this a secondary dominant, right? This is going to be what we call a secondary dominant. And this is going to be our target chord, the chord that it's leading toward. So secondary dominant C7 leads to F. F is the target of it. Over here, we have E7 is 5, 7 of 6, and 6 minor 7 is the target chord, right? So here's our, I wonder if I could try this, secondary dom. Right, and then this here, A minor 7 would be the target chord, right? So notice the target chord is diatonic, right? It has a diatonic root and the whole chord is diatonic, right? The secondary dominant is not diatonic to the key because instead of E minor 7, we have E dominant 7. So that is non-diatonic, right? It has a non-diatonic pitch, right? Let's take a look up over here. Now, what is this pitch, by the way? It's G sharp, right? That's what makes it not diatonic. Over here, we have secondary dominant is C7, not C major 7, C dominant 7. Is that diatonic? No, because it has the B flat. C, E, G, B flat. So we're in the key of C, but we have that pitch. So now that is non-diatonic, but it still has a diatonic root. See, okay, C is the diatonic root, and then when we go over to the target chord F major 7, that does have the it is fully diatonic. So that would be a diatonic target chord. Okay. So to summarize, a secondary dominant has a, it's non-diatonic, but it has a diatonic root. Okay, whereas a target chord is diatonic and has a diatonic root as well. So it's fully diatonic chord. Okay, so and remember, you can get the secondary dominant of any chord by going one to the right in the circle of fifths. So in the example here, A7 would be the secondary dominant of D. And in the key of C major, D is 2. So this would be, A7 would be 5, 7 of 2, and we'd go over to the 2 chord over here. All right, that's a brief introduction to secondary dominants. Remember the circle of fifths, it will always help you with your harmony 2 material.